Hello and welcome to today's webinar, How Fujitsu is Unleashing the Potential of Generative AI in the Workplace with Microsoft Copilot. I'm Simon Jones and I'm here to guide you through today's webinar about how Fujitsu, a world-class end-to-end IT services provider with more than 80 years experience, is helping organizations from all sectors globally to improve their efficiency, add value and lower costs. Fujitsu is committed to creating happier lives in a more sustainable world by connecting people, technology, and ideas. And in this new era of AI, artificial intelligence, Fujitsu is empowering employees worldwide to enhance their productivity and creativity through harnessing really cutting-edge generative AI technology like Microsoft Copilot. Now, with a proven track record of more than 6,000 successful AI projects under its belt, I think it's fair to say that Fujitsu is firmly established as an ideal partner for integrating AI into business processes. And it's working towards really lasting solutions for pressing global issues and a more sustainable future. Now, you're probably here today because you've already started trying out Microsoft Copilot, or you're interested in what it can do in your organization. So let's dive in. We've got a panel of experts from Fujitsu to turn the spotlight onto how to succeed, and they've also got some recommendations on what not to do. So I'm joined today by Siri Lohi, who is an employee experience consultant, by Oscar Alman, who's a business consultant, and by Julien Maurice, who is a senior solutions architect at Fujitsu. And we'll be focusing on how Fujitsu can help organizations navigate through these opportunities, but also the challenges of implementing Microsoft Copilot. Now, that's really regardless of where they are in their cloud journey today. You're always somewhere on the line, but it doesn't matter where, you can jump in with Fujitsu. So it's an opportunity really to find out how Fujitsu can enable your organization to get the full potential from Copilot, because when I was talking to these panelists earlier, I found out that I'm not getting anywhere near the full potential from this, and they unlocked some tips for me. So it's a tremendously powerful opportunity, technology, and remember that organizations like yours really want to get the most out of it, but you can't do that if you just turn it on and hope. In fact, many organizations have done that, of course, and some of them have probably switched it off again as well, because it's like, my goodness, this is a bit scary. So Fujitsu's expertise really unlocks substantial productivity benefits and high levels of stakeholder buy-in, which means that Copilot's a really central pillar of tomorrow's workplace. So that's enough from me. Let's get started. I'm going to jump in, first of all, by asking Julien to tell us a little bit more about the tremendous power and potential of Gen AI with Microsoft Copilot in the workplace. Julien, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. So I would like to use an example for my own because I use Copilot a lot. And for example, when I get back from holiday, I know everyone has the problem. There's a lot of big pile of mail in their Outlook. Copilot works in the Office 365 environment, so it also has a pane in Outlook where I can just type in, "Hey Copilot, please give me a summary of all the emails I've missed last week and any actions I should take right now." And then the interesting is, it just creates a list for me saying, okay, this email is important. You have to do this, you have to do that. So it is actually a very good productivity tool for myself. It just helps me find quickly all the information I need by just asking a question like, I don't have to go to 25 emails. And then, did I miss something? Is it important? Yes, no. That's where Copilot really helps. Another example I also give is SharePoint. A lot of people know SharePoint. Finding something on SharePoint is always very difficult. Now I just asked the question, I've been working on a document last week. Maybe it was about this. Please help me find it again because I know it's somewhere. There are 25 versions. Please help me out. And I think that's the most important part of Copilot. It just helps me to be more productive, find information quickly, and work on it. But it's also interesting to hear what actual customers do for it. So maybe, Oscar, you have a good customer example on how we do it for customers as well.
Yeah, sure. We've worked with plenty of customers in Sweden, and the picture you paint up, Julian, really makes it sound easy to just jump in and get started. But we've seen that the preparation you put in beforehand is really important. So with the customer in the logistics space, for example, we did some A/B testing before and after users got training, and we had some examples in the before group where the users reported things took longer with Copilot than it did beforehand. But then looking at the after training results, we saw these great time saves and efficiency gains that you described, Julian. But that preparation is really important in order to actually find those benefits, and also, of course, to feel secure when you do this rollout and implementation. Have we thought about everything? Have we checked the boxes on security, on ways of working, on the implementation plan? So yeah, there's really a lot of potential in Copilot, but we really don't want you to forget about the value of preparation as well.
And there's also this very important human element, right? Where you've got to make sure, we've got an expert to talk about that. Siri, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so it's important to remember that when we are implementing Copilot, it's not just implementing a new tool to our workplace. It's actually about adopting an entirely new way of working. So that brings the psychological aspect there as well, because people often have tendency to resist new things, and they don't want to change the habits. They don't want to change the way they have worked for a long time. So that's the first psychological challenge we often have to overcome. And some ways that we can do it is, of course, in the very beginning of the adoption process, we bring some survey results. We try to tell them very clearly the potential benefit that there is in implementing Copilot. But of course, very soon we also have to provide the users hands-on experience. They need to see themselves how Copilot works, because when they use Copilot, they see the benefit, then they are likely to also change their beliefs towards this new tool. So the attitude will be more positive after they have the experience of themselves. And also another important thing when overcoming the resistance is seeing your peers and colleagues using Copilot successfully. So we tend to trust, well, people like us. And when we see they are using Copilot, we want to be part of that group, and we want to be also, know what they are talking about. And we trust them when we hear that others are using Copilot as well.
So it's an exciting opportunity to start navigating the world of Gen AI and AI, of course, but it's not quite as easy, is it, Julian, as turning it on? Tell us a little bit more about how you need to prepare to make the implementation a real success.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I, as a solution architect, have been asked by customers to actually perform called a security assessment, meaning that I investigate their landscape, see, would you actually be ready for Copilot? And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is Copilot is like a switch. You turn it on or you turn it off, meaning on, it's on. And the risk in that is that Copilot will actually use all your information, your documents, your OneDrive, everything you have, and will find anything in those documents. And I give you an example. For example, a CFO goes into a restricted HR portal, downloads, I don't know, an Excel sheet with very interesting information, which should not leave the company at all, and just saves it on his OneDrive because he thinks it's useful. Then he types an all staff email and asking Copilot in Outlook, hey, please give me some information. And then it actually types email. But maybe he's not aware that that information that's in that email to everyone is actually from that secret file in his OneDrive. And that can be a real security risk, which you don't run into. So a solution for this is what we have is like, of course, you can say, let's implement, as Fujitsu, we do that, document classification, meaning, hey, secret documents should not go out in any form or shape, and also teach people. So we instruct people on how they should not do this, and make training to make sure if you are using Copilot, be very careful of these kinds of examples, that before you know it, you are sharing classified information, which you should not do. And that's actually a security, I would call potential security breach, which, well, in Copilot, it can happen before you know it. So people should be really aware. And that's why we help and teach people with an assessment on how do you prepare your people, what are the plans, what are the actions you need to take. And that's my job, which I like to do. And a lot of customers hear this and think, oh, it sounds easy. Is it easy?
Well, this is funny because it's almost counterintuitive, right? We spend years educating people to save all their files on a shared drive, not to put them on the desktop drive, etc. And now suddenly, because they've done that and been a good citizen, suddenly they are might possibly exposing themselves to a little bit more than they bargained for. So Oscar, as you start to really unlock the potential of Copilot for customers in the enterprise space, tell us about the approach that you would take to make sure that these kind of Julian nightmares don't happen.
Yeah, we discussed this a lot with customers. Like, what approach should they have to adoption? And we usually advise a measured approach to adoption, both because of the ways of working and the cultural shifts that might be needed within the company when you start working with Copilot and generative AI. I had a project manager who said that, well, it kind of changes how everybody's working in the company, because everybody's a manager now of sorts. Maybe you're managing people, maybe you're managing generative AI assistants, but it changes the way you need to think about your work and the knowledge that's produced and your responsibility for it. We've also seen that when you can start in a safe sandbox, you discover these things of how do we need to change our ways of working when we want to transcribe and get meeting summaries from Copilot, for example. Well, maybe we need to change some of the types of meetings we have or how we approach them. The other reason to take a measured approach to adoption is because, like Julian said, you turn this on and then you also turn on the licensing costs. So the cost can grow quite large if you're doing a broad rollout of Copilot. And we think it's important to verify the business case that you built around Copilot, because the way that the HR team uses Copilot might be quite different from the way that people on the factory floor use it. And it's good to think about which group should you support when you roll out Copilot. So a measured approach is what we usually recommend to our customers.
Now, you've actually got a tool, haven't you? It's called the Fujitsu Copilot Evaluation Accelerator. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is a framework for how we help guide the customers when they've decided, like, yes, we want to implement Copilot. We might have helped them with the implementation plan, but then they need to train their end users and support the champions in the organization. So we can support with training and the deployment process, and also help with that data validation on the business case. Are we reaching the goals and the uses that we are hoping for?
So you're helping to set the framework, and then Siri, you're going to talk about the human side. I know with your background in psychology, great for understanding what makes people tick. Tell us about the importance of taking a structured approach here to educating people on how to use Copilot.
Yeah, so as mentioned, again, it's about changing our habits, and we need to learn brand new skills when we are using Copilot. So even though we have noticed that you can learn the basic features of Copilot maybe in the first 45-minute training session, but there's so much other skills that we need to learn that it's important to have the structured training program in the background. We also need to learn how to create prompts and how to proofread the responses we get from Copilot, and again, changing our habits and making it a routine to use Copilot as part of our daily work. It takes a longer time than a short training. And it, of course, then requires commitment from the customers that they are ready to make this change and be part of the longer program. It's important. And another reason why it's also important to have the longer period of supported trainings is that we've also noticed that sometimes there might be a little drop in the use of Copilot after the honeymoon period is over, because in the very beginning, new users are typically very excited about this new tool. They are trying everything and excited about the possibility. But then after a while, they also notice that the Copilot isn't perfect. It doesn't do everything that you ask for it, and then you might get frustrated. And then there's the risk that you fall into your old habits and you forget about Copilot. But when we have the program in there, we are then there to support them when that happens. And we provide them new ideas, we answer their questions, we help them overcome the challenges they face.
And you raise a really important point, Celia, I think, with the habit formation, because it was a bit before my time, but I can imagine moving from fax to email took some time to change your habits, or to go from a typewriter to working on a computer. And I think this shift to working with generative AI is similar. So it's good to think about that time habit change, and that might take some time.
Well, I lived through both of those changes, and I can tell you that it wasn't always easy when we first got the electronics turn up in the office. But so it's hardly surprising. So what you were saying is that it's possible that usage after you've turned Copilot on, usage actually might dip, right? So Julien, if you've seen usage drop off, you're not alone, right? How can I tell if I've really got the implementation right of Copilot so that people are going to accept it? I've seen usage maybe drop off, and I'm quite concerned. So tell me more about what I should do.
Yeah, I would measure the usage of Copilot and also ask and engage with the people who are using it. So it's important to check and validate. Are you happy with it right now? What not, etc. So user adoption is, I would say, one of the most important part of Copilot, but also checking they're good of license facts and figures you can find in the Copilot environment, like how many people are using it right now. Also, it's a good idea to measure it because of cost management. So that's also a way to effectively see, are you paying for what you get? But the most important part is, because I do agree with Siri, the honeymoon phase is great, but there are also limitations in Copilot where you notice, now I'm using this doesn't work. So it's also talking to people. If something doesn't work, maybe it works in a different way. And then you can actually reshape what you need to do. So these are ways to get more out of what you have.
Okay, so Fujitsu's done something like 6,000 of these AI implementations around the world. So you and your colleagues have been busy. Tell us a little bit about the 3 steps you go through: the preparation, the compliance requirements, and then how you shape this to the needs of the individual customer.
Yeah, so I think it's good to highlight that we have a lot of experience in AI projects, so we know how to implement them and we guide customers. So AI is not new for Fujitsu. And we do have a lot of services and solutions around AI as well. So one of the things I highlighted earlier was the security aspect. So maybe it's good to say that we also have, for example, a private GPT solution, which makes sure that you don't leave any information in the cloud, you send it out. So that's something as an alternative that our customers can go to Fujitsu and say, okay, if we don't want to leave any information out of this, maybe we can use a solution from Fujitsu and do that. The other thing is also readiness assessment, security assessments, actually talking to people, informing them, customers, does it make sense? Are you ready for it? Are you not ready for it? And in that case, I think the most important part, as explained, is the actual user adoption and how you do that. So maybe Siri can tell us something about the impact of the employees that are faced with Copilot when it's turned on.
Yeah, there are, of course, several benefits that employees can then notice when they are starting to use Copilot and learning to use it and getting it part of their daily life. Of course, one of the biggest benefits is that Copilot helps us save time. So we are often nowadays busy with our work. We have meetings that we can join remotely, so we can join one meeting right after the other one. And we have a lot of routine work that takes our time. And when we get Copilot as our assistant to help with the routine work, it saves our time. And we have time to do more creative work and focus on more complex tasks. And that can help us to be more motivated in our work, of course, because we have time to focus on what really matters, what we are interested in our work. And when people are motivated in their work, it can affect the whole workplace culture to be more positive. Of course, something that every employer would like to have. have in their company. And even it can have like a psychological benefits of not being so caught up with the routine work, but being able to focus on more motivating tasks, because then you feel better at work. The employee experience is better. And in one of the feedback surveys we sent after one of the Copilot adoption program that we had with our customer, in the survey results, some users even replied that Copilot reduces their stress and increases their mental health that way. And well, I can totally understand that. You don't have to spend time on the routine work. You have time to do things that matter. So maybe your work days are not as long as they used to be. So it can even have impact on the work-life balance. So after work day, you are more, you have more energy and you feel empowered, and then you feel better overall in your life.
That's a really fascinating psychological part, because Julien earlier also mentioned that in Siri, you talked about this just now, but Julien mentioned that Copilot can actually summarize your mails and tell you it's not going to take your job, but it's going to help you do your job better. And that's really good for well-being, because you get away from having to do all of the low-level administrative work, because you've got a very powerful digital assistant, right, Oscar?
Yeah, and we hear this from so many of the customers that we support, that the users, they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to the fax machine. They don't want to go back to the typewriter, and they don't want to go back to the old way of working without Copilot. And I think it's important to highlight also that not everything is going to be measured in surveys or in statistics. So for example, we work with a customer where one of the team leads, they had kind of a eureka moment when they had meetings with their developers, and they've had these meetings for years, but she never really dared to ask, like, what do these weird terms mean? And they use a lot of strange lingo. But now she had Copilot, she could ask all those questions to, and she said, well, I can finally understand my developers. And you don't really capture that in a usage statistic, but there's a lot of that cultural value as well that Copilot can help bring.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've all heard a piece of jargon that we really should know what it means, and we don't dare to ask, right? Because we make ourselves look silly. So I'm sure Copilot knows the answer. Now, Julien, I know that we wanted to talk today about the future of work and the generational perspectives. You've already brought up my old typewriter upstairs in the loft gathering dust. Tell us a little bit about generational perspectives on AI adoption.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, because we are from an older generation, but there's also like a very younger generation that come now into the workplace, and they are using ChatGPT, I think, for anything they would like and everything they use. So I see a lot of newspapers saying, hey, I make my homework with ChatGPT now, so they don't know how to deal with that. But the interesting thing is, those people come to an employer and actually expect that they can use ChatGPT also for everything. And they actually have a preference if it's not on an installed in the employer. They maybe go to a different employer. So also for your position in the marketplace to be attractive for employees, you have to have this kind of technology in place. I do want to add a caution here, because what happens is junior people go into work, and let's call it junior because they don't have any work experience, but they also don't know how to do the work properly, and they just let AI do everything for the work, and they probably trust the output of AI. And yeah, people that are aware of it, AI can hallucinate things and actually give you wrong information. And if you are not able to check it, you can actually get wrong information inside your organization and maybe use this information. So I would actually suggest to look at the senior staff that actually use ChatGPT or Copilot or these kind of tools, and to see them as an amendment. Oscar also said it's not replacing you, but it's actually helping you in doing your job, because they have the experience and they can check the results of Copilot to see what comes out of this. And actually, that's the future of work. You see that senior people can actually train junior people on how to use Copilot effectively and how to check the result and how to explain them the process, the information, and how the work works, to say it differently, but to really explain this is how you should use Copilot in an effective way. and make sure you don't get any wrong information out of this. And maybe it's interesting to go to Oscar, because we have a report actually on the impact of Gen AI on the workforce, which really highlights this as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the difference between the generations and how you use generative AI in different age brackets. So Fujitsu has a report called Generative AI in the workplace, where we interviewed 3,700 employees across Europe, varying organizations, various seniorities and roles, and it gave us a really good kind of current state of generative AI in the workplace in Europe. And yeah, for example, 81% of the respondents said that generative AI saves them time and makes them more productive, which I think we've also highlighted here during the webinar today. But also, like you mentioned, Julian, the difference between older employees and younger employees are also highlighted here. And the time save is actually greater among the older employees, which can be a bit surprising.
Absolutely, and we were just discussing this in the background about the age differences between the people on the webinar here. We've got different generations and sub-generations. Siri, how do we bridge that generation gap? It's new for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. So AI can also be helping in bridging the generation gap, because everyone needs to learn something from it. Julian mentioned very well that younger generation might be more confident in using it. They have they are excited to use it, and maybe too much. So then the older generation might be teaching them some things on how to be cautious about the responses you get from AI. But in general, everyone is learning new things when AI. So that is the common thing for everyone, which unites the whole organization, or everyone who are using Copilot in your organization. And so we've noticed that in the interactive workshops that we do, where we practice the use of Copilot, all generations are there together. Everyone has questions, and anyone can be the one to respond for the one. So everyone are facing the same challenges. So it can be very uniting experience even to start using Copilot together.
And Julian, you made an interesting point earlier where you were saying that you should treat this as an assistant, really, not a replacement for your job, right?
Yeah, I think that's the main message, to help people, because if they hear all this worrying, they get maybe scared. But I think they say, they said in the industrial age, robots are replacing you, machines are replacing you. I would say, don't see it as something that will replace you. It is really a productivity tool. So it helps you to be more productive if you know how to use it. Like, if you have a hammer, everything is a nail. So don't see it as a hammer, but that's one of the things that people will do. So they start using Copilot for everything. Then they discover, oh, it doesn't work in this. So they stop using it for that. But actually, they will keep using it for the things where it's good at. So I would suggest, see it as your personal assistant that will do everything you say. You can just give it commands and it will do it. And maybe it will do it very bad, and then you know, but maybe it will do it actually very good, and then you think, oh, that's really useful. And if you treat it that way, it's like an assistant that always says yes, even if it doesn't know anything how to do it, but it's just how it works. And I think that's the main tip. Use it, be more effective, but keep doing your job, because you need to do it. But you can divert some task, administrative task, things you don't like to do. Just move it to Copilot, and I think that's the main message I would like to give. And use it responsible. That's also a good point.
Yeah, very important to take the risks seriously, and also think that responsible AI is that's the era we are in now. There is no going back, and at almost all workplaces, with the policy or not, you're gonna have employees using AI. So building that culture of responsible AI use is really important, both by bringing in the support from the company with data privacy and security frameworks and policies, and making sure it's not easy for employees to accidentally expose confidential information, like you mentioned earlier, Julian. And also intellectual property ownership. We touched on it earlier, that people need to see themselves as responsible publishers for what Copilot is bringing. Microsoft is not gonna take that responsibility. It has to be on the company and the employees to learn how to use that responsibly. And we at Fujitsu see our role as important in helping educate our customers and their organization in this responsible AI use and providing guidance in that. So we have a role to play there as well.
So we've talked about the risks, we've talked about the opportunities, and I'd just like to close here with Siri by talking about how you can really take the 3 steps to engagement with your employees, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so regardless of on which stage of your AI transformation journey the organization is, we have 3 different journeys that can help and support you in the journey. So if you are just beginning to explore Copilot, or you need assistance in identifying specific use cases, we have the vision and value pathway. And then for those who are ready to experience Copilot's benefits firsthand, we have the proof of value pathway, which allows companies to quickly experience Copilot's benefits and build a business case for wider implementation. And thirdly, even if you have already purchased Copilot licenses, we can support you in integrating Copilot seamlessly into your operations and ensuring you get the most out of this powerful tool with the deployment and adoption accelerator pathway. So those are the 3 pathways we have.
All right, well, this has been very informative for me as someone whose fingers hovering over that Copilot switch right now. We've heard about what it can do. We've heard about what it can't do. We've talked about bridging the generation gap. We've talked about highlighted the importance of preparing, and I just have to stress that, prepare, because you can't just switch it on, because if you do, then you're probably going to just switch it off again afterwards. And we really talked about the importance of taking a very structured, proper approach to making it sticky. So you might see a usage dip, that's normal, but people will start to accept it. And if you train them, they're going to get the very best out of it. And to bring it home, of course, Fujitsu's got, as you've seen today, a fantastic team of Copilot experts on hand to guide customers through every step of the way on the transformation. So wherever you are on your transformation journey and embracing generative AI itself, then Fujitsu is helping organizations like yours to get to the next level. And if you want to find out more, why not have a look at the new report that Oscar talked about? It's called Gen AI at Work, Philosophy, Progress, and Performance. Where do we go from here? It talks about the 3 Ps of AI. So philosophy, progress, and performance. That's it. So thanks for joining us today, and a very special thanks to our speakers, to Siri, to Julian, and for Oscar for sharing some great insights today.